the Boeing 747 crash in Ethiopia and how that affects the way we do our jobs. It's all about the human technology interface. And just in case you're not entirely up with the news, the Boeing 747 this week crashed in Ethiopia. It's the second time that this model has crashed and killed hundreds of people. And so it's now being examined in most countries, and it's taken down until it's been rebuilt. So in most countries around the world, that's what's happening. And what does this have to do with supervision? Well, it has a lot to do with supervision. Firstly, a little bit of backtracking about the crash and why it happened. It happened because of a human technology interface issue and also communication issue. But we're going to talk just about the technology piece today, because crew members couldn't see each other. They couldn't reach the instruments, and all the things were not ergonomically correct for them. And so it's really easy to make mistakes, especially on long flights where people get tired. And so fatigue, startle, emergency weather conditions, those are things that people are trained to deal with when they fly in an airplane. But you have to consider that those human errors are likely to happen when you're working with technology. And so that's why the technology failed. So supervisors use technology daily. Every single tool that we have is technology. A hammer is technology. A pen is technology. All the machines and the software that we use, all technology. In organizations, most technology has not been properly used or considered for use by human beings. That is the key problem. That's one of the main points of failure. Single points of failure happen because of human technology interface that has not been properly considered or configured. The other one is because there's a human point of failure that has never been thought about. And the other one is that there's a single person doing a job when there need to be cross-trained people doing jobs. And the other reason is because of no lines of communication. So those are all, I'm going to talk about those separately at different times. But today, I just want to talk about the human technology interface. So we need to think about human technology interface constantly, because when we don't, people die. I worked with a plant that had what they called a finger cutting machine. It's not because they actually intended to create a machine that cut fingers, it's because that machine had problems, and instead of it being dealt with, they just kept putting new people without experience on the machine to see if they would maybe have an accident. I mean, it's ridiculous in this age where people are so concerned about safety in North America, so concerned about safety, that they would do this kind of cruel thing. Anyway, people knew about it, and it was not dealt with for 3 years until somebody cut his hand off. Can you believe it? That is a human technology interface and a human communications and a responsibility and ethics issue, everything all rolled up into one. But you have to ask yourself, for every technology, how would people use this? Get lots of feedback constantly over time until you have more detail. Now, although that is easy to say, it is not easy to get it right. And I know firsthand, I know personally how hard it is to get this right, because I have an online business and it is way hard to get stuff right. You keep experimenting, and then you do one thing and it fails, you do another thing, it starts to work, some algorithm changes, then it fails, then people stop using things the way they were before, and then it fails. So you have to consistently reconfigure everything you're doing. Right now, I'm working with a group of supervisors live. So not everything that I do is online, although most of it is. But I'm working with a group of supervisors live to inform me about how they use the software and how they are applying the course to their jobs. Now, I already have a pretty good handle on how people apply the course to their jobs. In fact, I can pretty much pinpoint exactly what they're going to do when, no matter what industry they're in, at what point in the course. I know what kind of questions they're going to ask, everything that's going to come up. And that's because I've used it consistently. I use the technology consistently with the people so that I know how they're going to benefit from it. But I did find some more issues when I started working with this group live, because I want to correct everything as much as possible and to adjust to things as people use them. Okay. Just a little aside. I was talking to an e-learning software company yesterday. Really, they use really dated technology, and they have not been thinking about it. And it's something that I would never use, and it's just really irritating that they haven't been keeping up with the trends, and they haven't been looking at what their users would be saying. So yeah, it's it's everywhere. So these are the consistent issues that I found when I was working with the live supervisors, and I'm still working with them for another 3 weeks. So these supervisors, some people had trouble getting started because of technology fear. It had nothing to do with the technology, which is very simple. Click on the link, enter your email, and you're good to go, right? But they were so scared of the technology because they'd never used it before, and they would go to great lengths to avoid using it and make all sorts of excuses. But they got over it much faster if a colleague helped them instead of me. Bingo! There's a human technology interface issue. So if a colleague helps them, then they were more likely to get started quickly than if I helped them. Probably because they're scared of losing face, right? They don't want to look bad in front of their instructor, okay? So that, at any rate, a colleague, and they also discovered that, and this has happened in pretty much every group that I've worked with, there are one or two go-to people who emerge naturally as the people who use the software well, and they become the instructors on the software to the others whenever there's a glitch. So identifying those people early on and using them effectively is also going to be helpful for me. That's something that I discovered. I also discovered that others can't solve small issues like cut and paste. So I'm going, why is this so problematic? The cut and paste should not be an issue. I'm constantly having to go solve that problem. Well, I discovered it's because different computers of various ages don't function in the same way. So I had to go in and then help them with a screen share and say, okay, show me what your computer does, go through it, walk me through it, and then I go, oh, okay, that's why it's not working for you. And then I'd have to solve it, and I didn't know the answer either, so I'd have to solve it with them until I got to the answer. And so since I've had to do this with several different types of computers, I realized that this is an interface problem. And so I can tell people early on, if something's not working, it's not you, it's not because you're not capable, it's because of all these different ages and styles of computers. And so I can usually help you solve that in a few minutes. So don't be frustrated. Let me help you with a screen share. So that's something I discovered. I also discovered that some people had upload speed problems. And that upload speed problems are not me or the technology, but it was a company internet issue. People required fiber optic updates in the region. That is beyond my control, but it highlighted problems for the company with other technology issues that they were having. And when they realized what that was, they were able to make changes. And so their staff can now use some of the software that they've been using more effectively because they have improved their fiber optics. And so now all of their upload speeds are better and everything is way faster. Other people were afraid of answering questions by text because they were worried about their English and the mistakes they would make in their English. And then we were worried about losing face in front of me or others. Of course, they were worried someone might somehow see their work, and they didn't want to type it because they were scared they would make a mistake. That has happened over and over and over again. And I really address it now in the very beginning of the course with all of my groups because so many people have that problem. And even if English is their first language, they may not have been that happy in school or felt successful at school, and they feel like this could be a place where they would be judged on that. And so once they realize that they're not going to be judged on it, and I'm just looking for how they think about things, I don't care if they make mistakes as long as I can understand what they're writing. It really helps. So that's another human technology interface problem that I had not considered in the past as carefully. I did consider it, but I didn't consider it as carefully. So now I actually introduced this piece about, I don't care if you make mistakes, it doesn't have to be complete sentences. You just need to get your idea across. That is part of the interface thing that you wouldn't expect would be a problem. And here's another thing that I found. Everybody needed a paper tracker to help them feel like they'd accomplished visually what they were doing inside the course. So they can see the course visually, but it didn't feel like an accomplishment to them because they didn't have like a completed booklet. And then they started using the paper course tracker. And every time I start a coaching session with them, or when they're doing a goal, I say, you have this on your tracker. And now the people in this group, they have their tracker with them. They're opening it up at the beginning of every session, and they're putting notes in it. And they have a tangible record of what they've accomplished and what they want to remind themselves of. And they're really proud of it. And it's funny because I thought, this is online. We got to keep it all online, but we don't always have to keep everything online. For example, I use a paper planner, but I use an online calendar. So things have to go back and forth sometimes between something physical that people can touch and the technology that they're using. So another thing I discovered is that the ideal length for this tracker is 4 pages. And I discovered that the ideal length of the time in the course to see results and to sustain them is 3.5 months. I experimented with 8 weeks, experimented with 6 months, I experimented with 4 months. 3.5 months is perfect. Anything beyond that, people don't want to do it anymore. Anything less than that, they don't see sustained results. They see results, but not sustained results. So all of these things that I'm sharing with you are a result of ongoing user testing, feedback, and adjustments. And that is the way human technology interface works. It's not a one-time done deal thing. It is an ongoing thing. Now, in your job, what do you need to consider from a human technology interface perspective? Okay, think about it. What system or software or tool or policy are people not using properly, or not using consistently? I want to know about that. And so does the rest of the group, so post it. Share your human technology interface successes, failures, and questions. I think I've been pretty open with mine, telling you how this was working for me, what's not working for me, what I've had to adjust all along the way. And I have lots of examples from supervisors that I work with, because I have such a big repertoire of good stories from people who have told me about their company experiences. So how do we learn? We learn best when we use our Savvy Supervisors community. I want to see you guys participating and sharing and helping each other out. So no matter where you're at, whether you are seeking a job, whether you're in one, whether you're supervising, whether you're managing, whether you're looking to get into a management position, all of your experience is valid. And this topic of human technology interface affects all of us every day. So I really want to hear about it. So put your comments into that group. That's your call to action. Put some comments in there and let's start sharing and learning from each other, okay? Have a great weekend, and I look forward to your comments on this post. Bye.